Hi, and welcome back to the Two Dudes Talking Motorcycles podcast. I am dude number one this time. My name is Mitch.
And I'm dude number two this time, and my name is Gleb. And you can find us on socials. You can find me at Gleb Lapham on Instagram.
And mine is at Meech2dbeach. Yeah, that's my whole handle. We will be launching a Instagram, to the thing we're talking about, Instagram. We're going to be launching a Instagram page for the podcast as well once Instagram wants to work with that.
For some reason, we're having issues with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, welcome, and thank you for listening again. This is our 5th episode, and our numbers of listeners keep going up and up, which we're very thankful and happy about.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, we're actually really close to like 1,000 plays total right now, which is I didn't see that coming.
I didn't see that coming, especially not after 5 episodes.
Yeah,
4 episodes. Like, it's crazy.
No, but honestly, thank you though for like all your guys' interest in it. Like, if you have any comments, definitely let us know. But really, thank you so much, because this podcast is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. Yeah,
so
I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah.
So today our main topic is we're going to be talking about kind of like features on motorcycles that have appeared over the years and then have become like went from being luxury to standard. We kind of just got this idea while filming our last episode, because there's so many features that you have to usually pay extra for, and or get it only on the higher end models, but now they've trickled down to your lower end or your starter models, and so many of them are just there without you having to pay anything extra.
Yeah, and that's it's just gonna be like a nice, like, more of a discussion rather than like list, I guess. I think, because some of it's gonna be more about like what's required by law, with some like regulation, I guess, stuff. At least in the U.S., like with ABS and things like that, to like just like what's considered standard for what's considered standard nowadays. So, but before we do that,
as always, we'll jump into the news. And first, I have some very fun news. But before even that, I have some actual news instead of me riding a new motorcycle. And that is Buell, the brand that I kind of forgot about for a while.
Yeah.
But apparently they're kind of trying to reemerge back into the market, and reemerging with one of the most popular things on the market right now, which is adventure bikes. So they announced their Buell Super Touring 1100, which is Buell's adventure bike, and I got a picture for it right here for anybody that's watching on YouTube. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Harley Pan America, like that very square shape, but I do kind of like the headlight, and I really like the color scheme there.
Yeah, it's different, because like the Pan America, I think, is like, it looks like more top heavy, but this looks like more boxy rounded overall for weight.
And for anyone that's listening to this instead of watching, it's kind of got this black and orange color scheme, and this quad looking LED like headlight, and it kind of makes it look like it's something like pretty cool character.
Yeah, it looks like it's got a monoshock in the rear and an absolute unit of a swing arm. Look at that thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's pretty big for a swing.
Yeah, it's massive. Very massive. So I was looking up motorcycle news the other day for this, and I came across this, and I was like, okay, an adventure bike, that's pretty cool. So some of just so Buell hasn't revealed a full spec sheet, so there's no word on the kind of suspension, the brakes that it's going to have.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Look at the size of that disc on that front tire. Again, for the audio listeners, like, this disc, I can't, it looks like the brake from where the caliper is.
Yeah, you're right.
This disc is like almost as, or like the...
It's almost the size of the tire.
Yeah.
Or the wheel.
Sorry. Yeah, the wheel. Yeah, it's like the same circumference or something. Yeah, so look it up. It's
kind of cool looking.
What's this bike called again?
The Buell Super Touring 1100.
Okay.
1190. 1100. Oh, that's the name is 1100.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
So it's an 1190 cc V-twin. So that's the size of the engine, and the only specs they're released is the torque and horsepower figures, which they're promising 185 horsepower, which is insane, and 102 pound-feet of torque.
That's many.
So this bike sounds like it's going to go fast. I would, just by judging by those two specs, I feel like it's going to be really nice on the highway, because you have so much headroom to pass or to keep up highway speeds and stuff. And it looks like it's kind of made like
Looks very fair. So really, just so I can clarify, because I forgot to ask before we started, is this So is this a concept art or is this the model? For the audio,
for the picture,
for both users.
I'm not sure if the picture is the prototype or the production model, but they did announce. I think this is actually what the production model is going to be looking like, because they announced the concept in 2022, and now they announced they're going to be releasing it in 2025, I believe. And this is what the Buell CEO Bill Melvin had to say about it. The Buell Super Touring 1190 is a next-level touring bike with designs that will bring excitement back to American touring motorcycles. Plus, in spite of supply chain headwinds, it's on target for production to start this fall. So I would assume that this is what the production model is going to look like, or very close to it. Yeah. And it really caught my eye because I thought it looked pretty cool. Like, it's got kind of like this mean face, and it looks like it can go a long distance without like getting tired. It
I'm really actually it's got me really curious about that disc in the front.
Yeah,
that's very.
I wonder what that is. So maybe once they reveal a full spec sheet, we can kind of revisit that or touch up on it again and figure out what that is.
Yeah.
And they did reveal. So it's going to be a 2025 model year, and it's going to start at $21,995 US.
Okay.
So fairly, I feel like that's a fairly common price tag for a touring bike with that size of engine and for kind of its intended purpose. I feel like that's in the ballpark with your GS's, Multistradas, all of those. And I got that from rideapart.com just to kind of cite our little sources there.
Yeah.
And speaking of Ducati Multistradas, I got to ride one today.
Tell us about it, Gleb.
It was an amazing bike. My God, it was the Ducati Multistrada V4S. So this is basically the top of the line, fully decked out, $27,000 model. And good Lord, it is fast. This is a very fast bike, and it just hauls ass without thinking about it. And not only is it fast, it feels so refined, so comfortable. But one of my favorite things is the TFT on it was so responsive. Like the tachometer, it just flowed like smoothly. I feel like it almost has like 120 hertz refresh rate. Just like it was just like so butter smooth, and the controls were very responsive, and it was crystal clear. I was like, this is one of the best TFTs I've probably seen. I feel like it's way better than even the one that I have on my Triumph. But it was a phenomenal bike. I only got to ride it for about 10 to 15 minutes, but it just hauled ass, and it handled very, very well. And it was just a super comfortable bike, especially once you put it into sport mode. That thing just rips, and it just wants to keep going because it has so much power. For those that are wondering, it has 170 horsepower. That is the most powerful bike I've ever ridden so far, and it's insane. It's absolutely
It looks comfortable
insane.
too.
It was very comfortable.
Yeah, it does look really comfortable.
Yeah, the seat was nice and cushy. It was wide enough. It felt pretty much on par with the seats of other big adventure bikes like the Tiger 1200 and the BMW GS, which I feel like probably has the most comfortable seat I've ever sat on. I feel like it came close, but I feel like the GS is still like just a tiny bit more cushy. Maybe it breaks in because this bike only had 90 something miles on it. So maybe after a while it will kind of break in a little bit and become a little more cushy. But it was an amazing bike. And man, shout out to Eurosports Utah and Morgan over at Eurosports Utah for setting me up on the ride on that thing.
Yeah, I think at this point, pretty much every episode, we have a obligatory thank you to those
pretty
guys.
Much, yeah. I mean, they're really cool about us.
Yeah, they've been
letting them
pretty helpful too. Yeah,
demo some bikes. And for the last 3 episodes, at least one of us has gotten to demo something. And the other bike that I got to demo today was the Desert X, which you demoed a couple of weeks ago too. And
you're here to also rain its praises.
Yeah, I will say it's a bit of a contrast between the Desert X and the Multistrada, because the Multistrada just feels like this machine made for carving through air. If you just look at it, it looks very aerodynamic. It looks like an arrow, and it's ready to just pierce the air through and just keep up that speed. and it does it in a very smooth and like very like just smooth and refined way. Now the Desert X, what I felt like is a very good contrast to that. It's still a very like refined bike, but it doesn't feel quite as smooth. But I don't think that's in a bad way. It just feels like it's more rough. It's got a grumble to it. It feels more rugged. It feels like it's more like almost slapped together, but like very carefully slapped together. It's like like slapping something together, but in a meticulous way for it to look and feel a certain way. And that's what I felt like about the Desert X. I also really loved the exhaust note on that. It's a fantastic
it was a really
bike.
nice sounding bike.
They're L twins. They just every time I would let go of the throttle, I just hear those little pops coming out of the exhaust, and it just sounded fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic.
One thing I remember with that bike the most is just like I was just shocked that like I never ran out of power either. Like it has enough pull like through the entire power band, no matter what gear.
Absolutely,
it was nuts.
It felt very good to ride. It felt absolutely good to ride.
Even first those semi-knobby tires, it still feels really good on the road too.
And just you can fling it back and forth so well.
Yeah.
And what I liked is I liked how basically just how you feel on it. What I was expecting before getting on is because it has that fixed windscreen on it, I was really worried about like, you know, I'm a taller person. I'm 6'1". I can like so many motorcycles, I have to lift that windscreen up pretty much to the max so it doesn't buffet on my head. And on this one, I didn't feel too much. It was a very smooth like current of air coming through. So that made me feel pretty good because
that's cool.
I was worried like non-adjustable screen, it might be a little bit weird, but no. And plus that wide fuel tank on it kept a lot of the air off my legs. So.
Yeah, the wind must not have been a problem for me because I can't even remember.
Yeah, so I think
experience.
Like, I think they designed that bike really, really well. I think my only like tiny little gripe was on the TFT. Some of the fonts for like the trip meter and stuff like that, they're kind of tiny, and like you really have to kind of like look for them when you're looking at the TFT. I feel like maybe if it was like a little bit bigger TFT, I'd like it a little bit more. But the important stuff on it, like your RPMs, your gear that you're in, and your speed, all right there, easy to see. So that's the important part.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was a really fun bike.
And I feel like I'll just touch up on how it compares to the Tiger 900 real quick, since they're kind of competing with one another
a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like the Tiger, my Tiger, like feels a little bit better at higher speeds because I did take the Desert X on the freeway as well, so I hit about like 75 miles an hour, 80ish or so on it, and it did feel like it's a little bit more like you kind of have to like. Put a little bit more effort into like keeping it steady
on the Desert X.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't think that's the fault of the bike or anything like that. It's just I think it's just like the characteristics of it. That's how it is. Like it feels a little bit more rugged. Well, and I think almost.
You might be a little spoiled because you know those Triumph triple engines are they are gonna be a little smoother.
Yeah.
Between the three.
And it wasn't just the engine smoothness. I kind of felt like the Tiger was a bit more stable on the freeway. And I think it's...
Oh, yeah. No, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think I attributed that to the tires, but it could have been the engine.
But I do have like fairly knobby-ish tires on mine, too.
Yeah,
my Tiger.
Yeah.
But it just feels like the Tiger kind of like carves through the air a little bit better than the Desert X, but not by much. The Desert X is still like 100% doable on the highway.
Yeah.
I think like... totally fine. It has cruise control. It's got all the good features. Same with the Multistrada. That had even more features. And I think, and I didn't get to try this part out too much, but one of my favorite things from both the Ducatis that I tried today is the fact that you can customize each setting so much. You can fine tune the suspension, the engine braking, the wheelie control, the traction control, and the amounts you want it in all the different settings, not just like one user mode. But each setting you can kind of fine tune how you want it to do and what you want it to do. And I think that's great.
That's cool.
And I wish more motorcycles would do that, especially kind of like in that price range and in that thing, because
isn't the Ducati X like a higher price than the Tiger 900?
I think it's a little bit more expensive, but not by much. I think it's like Rally Pro price.
Like 18 or so?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Like 18 or so. I don't know what package levels they have for it either.
Yeah.
But this one was equipped with a quick shifter. It did not have heated grips. The Desert X did not. But the Multistrada, that thing was fully loaded. It had adaptive cruise control.
That's cool.
Is, like, I think it's one of the first bikes that I got it. That and the BMW, the K1600 that they have.
Yeah.
Adaptive cruise control, heated seat, heated grips, electronic suspension, like phone connectivity, everything. Man. It was a fantastic bike. I'm excited for you to ride it to see what you think.
I'm definitely have to go try that out next week or something because that's
you can talk about it on the next podcast, on the next episode.
Compare it. Yeah,
because it is a phenomenal bike, and I can see why people buy Ducatis.
It's like we're singing the praises of bikes that like people already know are awesome.
I know,
right?
Right. But we've never ridden them before.
No, we haven't. Yeah.
So now we know.
And if you haven't ridden one, you should probably go try it out.
Yeah.
They're really cool.
Definitely. that Multistrada, I was like, if I was shopping for a big bike like that would be a strong contender. And I can see why people like Ducati because those bikes feel good.
Yeah, I think like after opening up, trying more bikes and stuff now, it's like I think like if I was to get like something to tour the country with, like seriously tour with, like yeah, I love my bike that I have now, of course, but it really. It's not a long distance tour. You know, I mean, I could do it. You could tour with any bike if you really want to, but the Ducati seems to have all like the comfy features that
it does, and just like all the other big bikes, and hopefully one day we'll get a chance to maybe try out all three of the big European
that's something we could
adventure
try.
bikes back to back to see which one we feel like does the best job. Not really the best because we can't take them like a weekend trip or anything, but. The best, and that's like 30 minutes of demo time that we can get.
I'm sure they're all great, but maybe even just like the sense of how they compare to each other. Not that one's bad necessarily,
no.
But
I think it would just be cool to, like you said, compare it to see how different, how similar they are between one another. Because they're all within the same price point, within the same power. I think the GS probably has the lowest amount of power, but. I think probably the most
tractor.
I think that thing's got a lot of torque though.
Yeah. So, well,
cool. Do you want to head us into to our main topic?
Yeah, I think I could probably handle that. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about like features of bikes and just kind of that discussion of like, like what's on or what isn't on older bikes and what we've been seeing becomes more and more standard. I didn't get my bike until like 2020 obviously.
Yeah.
But even then when I was shopping for my bike, like it could have been my price point, but like it was pretty bare bones. Like my Rebel,
same with mine.
And your bike, right?
Yeah.
And now that I'm seeing like it's 2023, and even last year 2022, you were seeing these bikes. It's just like oh, it's got cruise control, it's got this, and like so there's more stuff is more standardized now. I feel like
it too.
And it's not even necessarily like because cruise control obviously and ABS, those have been around for a long time. Traction control, all this stuff, but it just seems like they're more and more available on different
models now.
Yeah, there's like a wider spread of these features.
I agree.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say and it's kind of cool seeing because motorcycles just started basically like a bicycle with an engine in the middle of it, and over the years, they got bigger engines, fatter tires, better suspension, beefier frames, carburetors, fuel injection, and even if you look back to like the early 2000s, a lot of bikes were carbureted.
Yeah,
they didn't have fuel injection or anything like that. They were pretty.
I think. Yeah,
they were still like very mechanical and not too many electronics involved and things like that. But the higher models, they started getting those featers probably a lot sooner.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is like with the fuel injection, because dirt bikes are still going to be carbureted. A lot of those are still going to hold that. But fuel injection is actually, it's not even like necessarily like a more efficient thing. It's just but it's obviously it's less maintenance.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is actually emissions. Carburetors spit out a lot more carbon emissions.
Makes sense.
So it's actually, that's one of the regulatory things that was coming up. It was just like, hey, like we're
totally forgot about that.
There's really, the only benefit you're really getting as a user is like you don't have to clean your carb,
which I very much appreciate, because that sounds like a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I don't really want to do that myself, but it is going to be due to carbon emissions for the most part. That's the biggest thing that set that in place. And one thing I never even thought about, even though we had this idea for this episode, was actually electric start.
Oh, that's right.
That's now a feature that's standard.
Pretty much.
Again, some dirt bikes are kickstart.
Yeah.
Some and the older bikes are kickstart, but electric start was like,
it's pretty much the standard. It's been for the past
decades.
Well,
because I can't exactly remember the year of when it was, but when electric start first started coming out, a lot of bikes actually came with the backup kickstart because it was so inefficient, And then Honda, of course it's Honda.
It would be Honda.
It would be Honda. They made just like the unbreakable electric start motor, so that is now standard, where back then that would have been something that like Honda would have bragged like, hey, this works for us. We don't need no kickstart.
I did not know that, but that's very cool.
Yeah. And again, these are just things that are now standard.
Yeah.
And a really weird thing, I'm just going to get weirder before I get back to the more normal stuff, but so nowadays it's just a throttle, right? And you want your throttle to snap back in place, right?
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, that was actually a feature called the twist return throttle. So Harley Davidson's motor throttles were actually, you would twist it and it would hold in place.
Oh, so it's like
the old school
control.
So the old school motorcyclists, they called that cruise control. Then like I think it was, I don't want to say Triumph. It might have been. I think it was the British bikes, maybe not Triumph, but it was started mostly on the other side of the pond.
Yeah,
they have it there. They started having this the snapback throttle, the return twist.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I thought that's just standard, right?
That is really cool.
But at one point, that was a difference to making brands.
I can't even imagine what it would be like trying to remember to
put that back.
Yeah. That's like your gas pedal on the car not coming back.
Yeah.
And you have to like flick it up with your foot.
Thank you. And like again, we're gonna come back to today, this day and age. But going back even more, the throttle was a lever that you would use.
Kind of like in the car.
Yeah. So it's like so you'd have to push a lever in and then pull it out, and then they started introducing actual twist throttles. And then they had to make them automatically snap back.
Yeah, I really like
those. Would have been features that are now just normal,
existing.
They just exist now.
And
right?
If a bike came without them, that would be weird. It probably would not be a production model. It would just be some kind of one-off special edition type bike.
And then, and so that's just like some of like the examples we were having. Of
it's really interesting. I think to think about like the thought process or how those ideas came to be. It'd be like, we have this lever for a throttle. Why don't we just put it on the handlebar?
Yeah.
Oh, the handlebar, like it doesn't slow you down once you speed up. What if you made it turn off when you let go of your hand?
Yeah,
that makes sense. I bet there was some guy out there sitting like, hey, why don't we put a brake in the front as well,
right.
and put a lever right in front of the gas to click that.
And this is why this episode should be a discussion, because it was so easy researching for this to get lost in a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I believe it.
I think the theme that I was seeing the most, like with a lot of new technology for motorcycles, was the actual motorcycle market keeping up with its audience, user base, whichever you want to call it. But they were... so like they started like with the electric start, right? Motorcycle companies realized that, the baby boomers, like their target audience was getting older. And so they said, hey, like
make it easier to start up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, and same thing like with going from drum brakes to disc brakes, they noticed that these work a lot better. Hey guys, it's Mitch, one of the dudes that talks about motorcycles. While editing this video, I did find out that I used the wrong terminology while we were discussing braking. I said dual channel ABS while I was describing dual disc ABS, and then Gleb actually goes on to describe dual channel ABS as linked braking ABS. So sorry about the confusion. Otherwise, just enjoy the episode and thank you. And then ABS came along, you know. And then on top of ABS coming along, we have dual channel ABS. So you have 2 discs on, maybe not most motorcycles, but I'm willing to bet that as time goes on, that will be standard.
That also brings me to since you're talking about brakes, that remind me of linked braking. So when you hit the front brake, the back brake also engages. A lot of higher end bikes have that. I know the GSs have that, and it's kind of almost like a safety thing, because using both brakes does reduce your stopping distance significantly, and you don't have to think about it, and the bike just does it for you.
Yeah,
and it's I find it fascinating and cool. There's how many. Especially on modern bikes, especially bikes that have ABS and traction control, throttle control, all these fancy settings or features that you can change, is how much stuff is actually going on in the background.
Yeah, it's just
without
automated.
you noticing.
Yeah,
and it's mind-boggling, because there's just so much, and they do so much.
Yeah,
and, one of the biggest benefits I think about that is it makes riding more safer and more accessible too, because you can have a newer rider. You know, on a motorcycle that has traction control, potentially saving them from a crash and stuff, because it kind of interfered and helped them ride it, or slow it down a little bit.
And and that's what was a part of this whole theme of what's driving all this change in motorcycles is a lot of it's safety, a lot of it's user preference, due to age or uses.
Yeah.
And along with uses, a lot of these features started coming out as motorcycles started being able to do more and more and more.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of these things like cruise control, quick shifters, and coming out as people started to adventure out and tour America. Yeah. And this is talking from the American side. I'm sure it's different but similar for the rest of the world.
Makes sense.
And that's why you see in different parts of the world they have much smaller motorcycles. Because America's pretty expanse.
It's pretty expansive. I feel like motorcycling here is just not it's not as prominent. It's not as, an everyday thing.
Yeah.
We don't commute to our jobs on our motorcycles. Maybe once or twice a week.
Well, I work remotely, so
occasionally.
Yeah.
He's cool. But you have countries, even in Mexico, I remember seeing there were so many of these just 100cc, 125cc or smaller bikes just riding around everywhere, and they sell them at their grocery store there. If you remember that, and they just look like slightly bigger than a bicycle with a tiny little motor on it. And people are just zipping around. So I feel like it just depends where you are, and I'm pretty sure those don't have any of the features that we just talked about, but they still get the job of motorcycling done.
And even just moving on with technology, I'm willing to bet none of those were a drum brake.
No, I think they were just
standard
disc brakes.
Yeah, I think standard is still going to be a disc brake, because that's just what the market is now. That's
even
just
on bicycles, just regular pedal bicycles, primarily disc brakes versus the old school horseshoe clamp that they had.
Oh yeah,
which was always a pain in the ass. I feel like
those were a massive pain.
Now I feel like every
childhood woes.
Yeah, every bicycle you see, even the cheap ones that you get at Walmart, most of them have just plain old disc brakes.
Yeah,
which I feel like that's just kind of been as it became the standard for easy to make and easy to maintain and replace the pads and all that. Which it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and that's what and then that's what I was getting to, the dual channel ABS. Not only have we had ABS for a long time, but dual channel, once that was starting to be introduced, a lot of that was driven by motorcycle weight and power. That's why a lot of high performance motorcycles have the dual disc. Have the dual channel ABS braking now.
Is that one just?
It's the 2 discs on the sides. So
okay.
So you have 2 calipers on each side, or wait, 2 calipers on the front tire, not 2 per tire.
You'd be stopping really quick. If you had 2 per. Two per disc.
And then with the advent of of the that's the wrong word. Once you start with the introduction of computers and everything else on there, that's when we started seeing electronic suspension. Because adjustable suspension came along because they said there's different types of riding. We know now we have a better idea of how suspension works. So you want when there's situations where you want tighter suspension or looser, then you would have to do that yourself. And then now
everything's electronic.
Yeah,
but it's still, but still a lot of bikes do have just manual adjust.
Mine's
same with mine. Mine just has a little knobbies I turn on the front, And I feel like that's one of those things that kind of keeps the price a little bit down. And sometimes I also feel like having a little bit less electronics is kind of nice because that's one less thing to like break or one less like wire to shorten things. But pretty much every like high-end bike, you're going to see electronic suspension.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's due to like weight or, again, it's one more thing that can break.
Yeah.
You know?
But I feel like weight does have something to do with it, but it's also kind of like a very convenience type feature.
Oh, 100%.
And I think that's one of the things with motorcycles, that when you go up in price points, you not only get the usual like more power, more torque, more better traction control, ABS, and things like that. Yeah. You also get a lot of extra convenience features, like cruise control, apparently adaptive cruise control now.
Yeah.
Different rider modes, heated grips, heated seats. So you're kind of adding these convenience features.
Yeah.
And that's part of like the premium that you pay for on a more expensive bike. But I just wanted to touch a little bit on the features that you've noticed that have come from bigger, more expensive premium bikes that have kind of slowly trickled down to starter bikes that we've noticed.
So lately, what I've personally noticed, just like getting ready for this episode, was like just how you ask. One thing I'm seeing that's becoming more and more available, I guess, and not just like to the higher ends. Like, oh, you got to drop some mad cash to get these features. Is rider modes.
Yeah, I agree.
That's been becoming a really big thing. I have been seeing more TFT and like LCD displays versus like the standard old digital style,
the little Casio watch,
style
LCD screen,
Oh, those ones. Sorry, like
you meant LED.
LED, my bad. Yeah, okay. LED. So, or there's like brands that just keep the super sexy dial needles.
Yeah, so I do like the old school needles, and I feel like there's some company like Triumph is a big one, Royal Enfield, where those old school dials just kind of like have this really analog feel to them. And, but even with those bikes that are like those modern classics, they still have so many of these features. They have traction control. They have different ride modes.
Yeah.
Self-canceling blinkers. Like so many different things. Even though they look like they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Which is awesome that they're able to kind of like mesh those two things together, like the new features with the old school design. I find that really, really cool that there's manufacturers that do that.
I think so. I know, like even things like cruise control, there's still, I wouldn't say that, because even like up to like the 2016 model of the Africa Twin or something was it 2016 or was it
It was 2020?
It wasn't until 2020 that they got cruise control.
Yeah, they just barely have cruise control, and that's only an adventure sports model. It doesn't have it on the...
Which is a bike you think should have that for what it's designed to do.
Yeah, especially like on the older models, but no, they don't. Huh. And when I was shopping around, I kind of was surprised on that, but so you have to get like basically the top model to get the cruise control on that, when so many bikes just have that as almost like standard right now.
Yeah.
Or at least bikes within that price point. Which that really surprised me that it did not have it.
That's very strange.
What the Africa Twin did have, though, was Apple CarPlay on that same model. Well, granted, that one was cruise control too, but it did have Apple CarPlay, which I found amazing, and I wish more manufacturers would add that. I know.
Yeah. I'll let you finish.
I know, like Honda also has it on the Goldwing. I think BMW now has it on their like K1600, their big touring bike. But that's like the one big feature I hope starts trickling into more, at least premium motorcycle models that have like the big TFT screen.
Like what you're paying for, right? Because
maybe exactly.
Because there's going to be a price budget for people, or a price point for people, because I didn't really care. I didn't really care about my phone integration on my bike, but I got it because it was like with the issue I had. It's like, oh, you know what? Like, we'll throw in this feature for you. So I have it, but. Was it just Apple CarPlay, or did it also work with like Android Car or whatever they call it?
I can't remember specifically on the Africa Twin. I want to say it was only Apple CarPlay, but maybe it does support Android Auto.
But at the very least, probably Bluetooth.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it still supported that 100%. But I would really love to see that appear on more motorcycles. Like, look at my Tiger. Like, it has this nice big 6-inch TFT screen.
Yeah.
How amazing would it be if I could put Apple CarPlay on there?
Yeah.
Just like Apple Maps for navigation right there on the screen. Maybe a little like bar at the bottom with my gear, speed, and like a little bar for tack or what fuel or whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be an amazing feature. And I feel like the Tiger would be perfect for that because it has the little cubby underneath the seat where you can put your phone, plug it into USB. Just if I could run it to that screen, they don't have to make it touch screen. Maybe I can still navigate it with the joystick instead of a touch screen, but it'd be a little bit clunkier, but it's still doable.
Seems doable. I mean, like, because again, my bike does have the Triumph specific phone integration, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not my favorite.
I've heard that.
I'm a brand man. I
Yeah.
love my Triumph. I love my bike, but the software side of the phone integration has not been my favorite. I don't. The only thing I use it for now, I don't use it for my phone. I use it for my GoPro.
And I've heard that about I don't know how it is on other bikes. I didn't get to test the Ducati's app today. I'm pretty sure they have one too, because the TFT on the Multistrada at least did have the options for music, phone, like all the usual stuff. That you see, it just wasn't connected, and I wasn't going to take the time to do that. But so I'm curious if some manufacturers do it better than others. But I have heard that about Triumph is that it's very finicky, has a lot of issues. And since I have the Rally instead of the Rally Pro, I don't have the Bluetooth module.
Yeah.
And I thought about getting it, but after hearing all that, I'm just like, I don't think it's worth spending $200 on it. I would rather go get a heated seat.
Yeah. But and that's that kind of brings me to my other things. Like, what we were just talking about there, those are some pretty cushy, high-end premium features,
Yeah.
And again, maybe that's going to become more and more available, because back with cars, it was only the expensive, nice-end cars that were getting the phone connectivity at first, or wireless, or heated seats,
Yeah.
So, like...
And now every car you buy...
Or backup cameras. And
yeah.
Now you're required to have a backup camera in new models.
I feel like most of the cars you can find, like your average, like... commuter cars have like heated seats and Apple CarPlay in them, and I feel like that's one of those things, maybe not like heated seats or Apple CarPlay with motorcycles, but definitely things like rider modes, like you said, and traction control, and maybe even heated grips, cruise control. I feel like those kinds of things are going to start appearing on more and more motorcycles, because I feel like they add a lot of appeal to a motorcycle. They make it a little bit more accessible, more attractive. And I feel like that makes people feel like it's a decent alternative to like driving a car if you want to do that.
And we keep like weighing these or like comparing the two, the car market features versus motorcycle features. Like I think there's different reasons why we ride motorcycles too.
There is,
right? And so like I one thing I was like just toying with today was this theme of like those things, those rider modes, cruise control, where we've talked about phone integration, and things like that. Something like phone integration, heated grips, heated seats, your fairings, your windscreens, like that is going to be more for your touring, ADV. Yeah. People who want to go long distance, but for around town, or just like a weekend warrior, like maybe they just want something that's going to keep them safe, keep the bike up, So it seems like with a lot of these like rider aid, they're not replacements for what the rider's supposed to be doing or like to distract the rider, but they should be aiding the rider for like what their purpose is.
Yeah, you should keep the rider safer, and and still kind of give them the option to maybe do something a little bit crazier. They wouldn't do otherwise, but when you're riding on an unknown road or just unknown situation, or if you have something happen where you have to grab like a handful of both your brakes all at the same time and have the ABS slow you down gradually instead of locking up your tires, can probably make a massive difference. Or if you hit a slightly slick spot on the road, and the traction control saves you. And
that's like so that's what I was going to bring up too, is I think, and I want to know what you think, is I think like of everything else we've talked about so far, I think the one thing that I was going to say should, but that I think could be good in all motorcycles to assist with rider aids and safety, like using the current technologies to be better, is the IMU. I think more mid to lower end bikes should start if the very least for electronics should be bringing out like an IMU. If you don't know, that is the inertia measurement tool. So it uses like gyroscopes and accelerometers to sense a motorcycle's position. So I think your bike does it too, like the lean sensitive ABS and traction control.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for traction control and what makes it safer. No, I think I do agree with you on that. I think that's one of those things that can help out a lot, especially for new riders, because even if you're cornering or anything like that, it can help you slow down in a more safe and gradual way. I
saw a video on YouTube. A guy's riding like a BMW like F850. It looks like a dreary day where he's riding. But apparently the backstroke on this video is that he was going into a turn and the bike, like he actually hit some black ice.
Oh, shit.
And so the bike was like, I'm telling you, it was like more than like 45. I thought he was going down.
Yeah.
But in the video, he slows it down. Like the bike basically corrected itself. So like, good job, BMW.
Yeah.
Your IMUs and traction control work because like the computer sensed something was wrong with how the tire was spinning to the angle it was moving at, and it just shot back up.
That's crazy.
Like it knew how to correct the tire to get traction back.
Yeah. So it's really cool. Like, I think that would be one of those features that kind of would make motorcycling a bit more accessible.
Yeah.
But what I kind of wanted to say though is like, motorcycles come in a lot of different varieties. Yeah. We have, like you said, your touring bikes, then we have like small dual sports and everything else in between, all sorts of different styles, models, and they each serve a different purpose. I think it's also important to remember though, like not every bike needs every feature.
Yeah.
Like ABS, that's probably, I think in the EU that's law now, so I think every bike has to come with that. And I think traction control is probably like one of those things that is probably a good thing to have and helpful.
Yeah.
But I feel
there's no reason a dirt bike needs some of that stuff.
Exactly.
If you're doing single track.
Like you don't need an ABS on dirt. Like that's one of those things you turn off.
Yeah.
You don't need ABS. And but it's still cool to see those features, and I'm glad that there's still motorcycles around that dial back on the features and kind of keep a very simple and almost like old school classic machine without so many of these electronics interfering with you. And still, but it's still built to a modern, like a modern day standard.
Well, and I think we see a lot of that too with like the modern classic genres. Because like there's something to be said for the people who like to get the old bikes and fix them up and ride them.
Yeah.
Like for in their words, the purest experience.
Yeah.
Again, their words, not mine. I haven't ridden an old motorcycle, but I see it. I get it. So
I totally understand that. I feel like there's it's like, I haven't ridden an old motorcycle, but I have driven old cars, and there's a certain like a feel or a character that an old car has that a new car doesn't.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like an old school muscle or an old school sports car.
Dude, that raggedy old Jeep that we drove in Mexico.
It was great.
It felt like it was a piece of shit.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
Like it had no AC. We took the roof off, or rolled it up, windows down, cruising around, and it just felt amazing. And I've driven. One of my friends used to have a '64 Mustang or '66 Mustang, and I just remember like those old cars. You just feel the heat. You feel like every like vibration and rumble. And that's part of the appeal of motorcycling as well, is you're exposed. You're exposed to the engine, you're exposed to the elements, and that's what makes motorcycling really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like me personally, I wouldn't want a motorcycle that feels like too much like
a Camry.
Well, not necessarily a Camry, but I don't want a motorcycle that makes you feel like you're in a cocoon.
Right. Yeah.
Like I want it to be fun. I want to be exposed to the air, to the elements, whatever comes my way, and that's just me.
No, I'm with you on that.
Not all riders are like that, though. Some people will only go out if the weather's nice and sunny and stuff. But I bought an adventure bike for a reason, and that's because I want to go on adventures. Yeah. And that means getting caught in rain and snow and wind.
Yeah.
And blazing heat.
Yeah.
Everything in between.
No, I'm with you on that, on like the sense and the experience of it all, but at the same time, it's like, so I think like that's like the difference for the motorcycle market is like, we have to keep up with, the general expectations of vehicles and technology, but we need to keep these experiences. I think most motorcyclists, no matter like what type of riding you do, like I think most people would say like, no, you want like that rawness, that experience. Exactly. You want to be a part of the road, not like not riding down it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think like I think that's what that would be the difference, is like, how do we balance this out while still maintaining safety and features? Because we listed some pretty high end, like bougie stuff, like, oh, my phone can connect to this. Like, I think one thing though that I would like to change about what's considered standard on motorcycle, like off the dealer floor or used, is those stupid toolkits that come with a new bike. They are practically useless. I don't care what anyone says. I think manufacturers should be shipping like an actual useful roadside kit with the bike.
It's funny that you mentioned that. When I bought my Tiger 900 Rally, I ordered a center stand for it, and then it came. None of the tools in the toolkit could be used to put it on, because all the bolts were sizes that are not in the toolkit.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm not even sure what the 2 wrenches and a screwdriver in that Triumph toolkit would be used for. The only thing I've ever had to do with it is adjust one of my mirrors, because it like got a little loose on the freeway one time. This is when the bike was still brand new. And other than that, I haven't touched them since. I mean, sure, they're there if I need them, but it's just super basic.
No, yeah.
There's not much in there.
And so, I personally, I think like no matter what kind of bike you buy, there should be some like toolkit that's specific to that bike. Like okay, you got a dual sport. I think every bike should come with a tire repair kit. And then like maybe not necessarily fuses, because I don't, but cars come with spare fuses.
Yeah.
I think motorcycles should come with like a more competent kit.
You know what? I feel like that would just benefit everybody.
I think I think personally that would be a feature that should be
a added bonus.
Yeah, I think riders should expect more from like their package in a bike from a manufacturer.
I really like that idea. So if any manufacturers listening to this,
get your shit together.
Get
guys.
on it. Yeah, throw in a nice toolkit for us.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just a useful one.
Yeah, no,
something with tools that can actually fit most of your bike's parts and things like that, and just make sure it works, or make sure it's like a decent toolkit. No, I do.
How much money I've wasted on Stockton tools that just break.
Yeah, so I haven't had to use mine too much, but the kit that I did buy from Stockton did have some fuses in it too.
I got that one too.
Which is kind of nice
to have.
Yeah. Helpful to have. I always keep spares in my car, and I have spares on my bike, just because you never know when you might need something.
Like with mine, on my bike, it came with like the basic little weirdo screwdriver thing.
Yeah.
All my bike screws are key wrench. Like, what am I going to do with a Phillips and a flathead? Yeah. Nothing on my bike takes that.
Yeah. So, it just makes no sense. I don't know. Now that you got me very curious. I'm gonna go to my bike tomorrow. I'm gonna pull out the toolkit and see where that wrench actually fits on my bike, other than the mirror.
And did your bike come with the tool to adjust your suspension?
No, because I don't need one.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I have a knob. For the rear suspension, I have a giant knob that sticks out, which is very nice. It's hydraulic.
Yeah.
And then on the front, I have two little nipples that I just twist.
I think everyone has 2 little nipples, Gleb.
Hey, not everyone. Some people might not have nipples, but my bike has 2 little nipples that I just twist.
Okay.
And I can adjust the rebound and the compression on the front front spring. Yours looks like it needs a screwdriver.
And it didn't come with it. So
just use your key. Your house key. Just start twisting it. Yeah.
But no, so that was my rant on that. I apologize you had to hear that, but that was
no, I think that's a very reasonable rant to have, though. I feel like it's just nice to have a good toolkit, or at least a useful one.
Yeah.
And especially like on an adventure bike or something like that, on a bike that you're planning on riding long distance, that's probably a very useful thing to have.
And we talked about in our episode talking about long distance riding, just make sure you have those kits and things like that. But again, that was stuff you always will have to assemble stuff specific to what you need and what you feel you'll need. But
yeah,
I think like especially for a new rider, they should be at least like set up with something to do like the basic things.
I agree.
You know,
Yeah.
So like, yeah, screw comes loose. Well, you don't have to come back to the dealer.
Yeah,
you can just fix it yourself.
And I do like that, and I know like a lot of it is just like a money thing because dealers, manufacturers, they want you to take your bike into the store to have their people fix it because that makes them money as well.
Yeah.
But I think it would be awesome to see a little bit more effort from manufacturers to like make basic repairs, like an oil change, basic like chain adjusting and things like that, accessible and easy to, or like fairly easy to do without having to remove the side of your exhaust to get to your oil fill cap or to do some crazy thing just to get your bike to.
Well, I think maintenance would be different from like a roadside situation. And that's just talking about the roadside stuff. True. So, like maintenance, like, you know, either you have your own stuff or you take however you handle it. That's one thing. But like if you're in an emergency, something busted, you're in the middle of nowhere, that you have the proper tools to, you know.
You're going to need something to...
It'd just be nice to, like, not have... Yeah. It's like, because you already know you don't have to, like... Or you already know, like, if you're in a pinch on the side of the road, you're not going to go under your seat because those things aren't going to work.
Exactly. No, I do like that. I think that's a really good idea. What else do you kind of think that you will... Let's look at, like, 5 years ahead. What do you think we'll see appear on motorcycles, something that we don't have right now? One of the big things I see you have on our list here is mentioned DCT. Honda is pretty much the only brand that has DCT motorcycles, and a lot of people really like it. When I was looking, and I think maybe having a few more automatic options, and I'm pretty sure there's people that would hate that on motorcycles, but I think that's one of those things that can make motorcycling a bit more accessible to a larger group of people. Because when I was shopping around for a bike last year, one of the bikes that I looked at was the Africa Twin, and the guy at Young Automotive that was helping me out, or Young Power Sports here in Utah that was helping me out, he used to have a GS. He got in a wreck, and he lost most of the feeling in his left arm, and that's the
his clutch hand.
That's the clutch hand. And he wouldn't be able to use the clutch on most bikes. He still had a grip, but he couldn't really move his fingers.
Yeah.
So he bought a DCT Africa Twin, and I was like, that is awesome. I'm like, it's cool because this person who, without this option, might not be able to ride anymore or have to like do something crazy like make the clutch work, is still able to ride a motorcycle and, you know, ride long. He rode that thing to Alaska and back, and like ride it like that while not having like his hand function. And I think it's awesome to see features like that like coming in. I would like to see that more.
I think accessibility is something that we could be seeing more and more in bikes. Something like maybe because Honda, like DCT is Honda's thing, but there's other, you know, you have progressive gearboxes and stuff that you could probably introduce. I'm not
even things like a quick shifter, like it's already a big help, but you still need to operate the clutch for that. So I think it'd be really cool to see a bit more like automatic options on motorcycles. Not to the point where it's like cars where everything is automatic and the manual is the special one.
But I think accessibility like that would be pretty nice to have.
I think so too.
I listed the DCT as an honorable mention because of the debate. You know, you do have some people, you know, who are, which I like my clutch. I really like throwing through the gears, you know. And there has been, I've never witnessed it, but like there has been like the debate, I guess you want to call it, is it a motorcycle if it doesn't have a clutch, you know? And
I feel like if it still has two wheels, a big engine, and sits fairly tall, and you sit over the frame instead of step through it, it's still a motorcycle.
So it's just like that whole thing, and you know, like, I understand it, you know, how you wouldn't want all motorcycles to go that way.
Exactly.
You know, like there is an experience to be had through gears
and having that mechanical feeling. But I think it's one of those things that can make motorcycling accessible to a wider audience, and especially an audience that may not be able to shift gears or use the clutch for various types of reasons. And I think it'd be cool, and I'm sure there's accessories you can add to your bike that can make it more accessible for if you have other like disabilities or mobility issues and things like that. And that kind of goes even to like the 3-wheeled bikes that we see from like Harley, Can-Am, and things like that. Yeah, there's like that kind of like the automatic debate, like, it's not really a motorcycle has 3 wheels and things like that. But I don't necessarily think they're a bad thing, because they still allow people to essentially kind of ride something other than a car, and kind of still have that wind in the hair and feel that kind of openness that you get with a motorcycle. And I don't think they're necessarily bad, because they still let people ride into kind of like have that similar type of experience. Well, even if they're not maybe able to ride something with 2 wheels.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I put that down as the honorable mention, because I think that's more specific to like what could be an accessibility thing for people, for people with different abilities to try out something that might otherwise be physically restricted.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess I'll go back to my original question before I mentioned that DCC. No, you're fine. Is what kind of features do you think we'll see more often on motorcycles in the next like 5 years or so?
Upcoming ones. Well, I really hope we see something about the toolkits. And I think I may have already answered it. I think I'm hopeful that we'll see more, hopeful. More stuff like the inertia measurement tools. I don't want bikes to become a car. I want that raw and experience, but safety is always an ongoing thing. Motorcycles do present more harm opportunities to you as the rider.
And I forgot to mention this, but the Multistrada that I rode also had blind spot monitoring.
Oh,
had blind spot. The little.
Oh, I did know that actually.
The mirrors, they're wired in. They light up if there's a car in your blind spot, like most cars have nowadays. So that's another kind of like extra safety feature. Yeah, and I feel like that's something. I don't know. I feel like adaptive cruise control and things will probably still be reserved for like the more high-end touring models, but I could see like blind spot systems being kind of trickled down to mid-range models at least, because they add like a little extra layer of safety.
Yeah, I think that's just my biggest thing is like maybe I don't have like an actual concrete answer for your question there, but like I would just hope that whatever we are going to see in the future is that it's going to remain restricted to rider aids, not rider replacements.
Makes sense.
So, but what about you? Because that's like what I have.
Apple CarPlay. Apple CarPlay and all. And if a motorcycle has a screen on it, if it has at least a 5-inch TFT, like color TFT, please just put Apple CarPlay on it and make it wireless. Wireless Apple CarPlay, because I feel like that would be such a
Android car
and Android Auto, sure, whatever. I don't care.
We share.
Yeah, if you use Android, just get Apple. No, I'm just kidding. Get whatever you want. But yes, thank you for both of those, both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I would love to see that, especially on models that have a TFT. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be like an argument saying that it can be distracting. It can make it can distract the rider. There's too much information and things like that. But the thing is, you don't have to use it if you don't want to. But it'd be such a nice feature to have. No, because if we're doing like our long distance rides, it'd be so cool to just have like Apple Maps just be pulled up there, be able to like control your music through there and take a phone call and things like that with your comms.
Yeah,
like through that, because just like with cars, I think we've seen and. Your example of your bike with the Bluetooth connectivity, car and probably motorcycle manufacturers suck at making connectivity happen in their cars.
Happen reliably.
And I think most of them kind of suck at making a decent interface as well. At least with motorcycles, like it's fairly like not as quite as complex as in the car because you have like a radio and things like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like if they tried to do something that has any kind of like phone control, it will never be the same level as Apple CarPlay or Android Auto.
No, and like that actually makes me think to maybe like amend my answer from before was one thing I did that is nice about the connectivity feature on my bike, like when it works, I'll give it that.
Yeah,
there's less things for me to focus on because it's all on the bike controls. So when it works, I'm listening to music. I can just hit the switch and it changes for me. I don't have to like come up here and fumble with my helmet.
Yeah, that's really nice.
You know, and ever since my phone mount fell off on my bike, luckily my phone wasn't on there. You know, but like I haven't replaced it, and so my phone stays in my pocket. And so when it does work, music, phone calls, you know, the Siri, I can still say "Hey Siri," when it works. So I think that it would be like a good like category of a rider safety. Siri just went off because I said it. But the I think I would fall into the category of rider aids because, again, for me as a rider, it's less stuff. Like I'm doing the same amount of stuff, but there's different methods. Yeah,
I get what you're saying. The more time you, the more often your hands are on the handlebars, the safer you are because you're not. I'm not distracted by
my helmet.
So sorry about that. To control like a random headset. No, I do like that, and I think it'd be totally doable for them to make Apple CarPlay work with like a joystick or some kind of controller.
Maybe the problem isn't the bikes. Maybe it's the how finicky our comm systems are. Because boy, motorcycle comm systems definitely are not the most user friendly so far.
They're kind of finicky, but I just feel like
they can get better.
Definitely, but I just feel like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, they kind of. That's their sole purpose, is to be basically project your phone onto a screen.
Keep your phone out of your hand.
And your phone is really good at doing all those tasks of switching music, making phone calls, reading text, having a voice assistant that not even Cardo's little finicky voice assistant or Bluetooth setup to your phone and stuff can match. And it'd be amazing if you can just control all that through a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not even while you're moving. Maybe it can just be like if it's touchscreen. The Honda does have a touchscreen, but it's disabled when you start moving. Like maybe they can throw in something like that, or like I said, use the joystick, or maybe like just completely lock everything from being controlled while you're moving, except for maybe like music or pressing OK to like take a phone call.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see people like entering their next GPS destination while riding on the freeway at 80 miles an hour, because that's not safe. But I feel like there's ways to do that because car manufacturers already do it. Like some of them disable like a search feature after a certain speed, or if you're moving at all.
Or it's like you're like you can only use voice. You know, like on my maps on my car, I can't type anything. I have to use the button and I have to say, oh hey, take me here, you know, something like that. But
and that brings me to the other point of like navigation and things like that. Some motorcycles do come with navigation. You can get proper like Garmin GPS and things like that, but we all have our phones, and I feel like so many people use their phones already for navigation. It'd be awesome to see that on the like projected on the screen, and not have to use some finicky app or finicky interface to like enter your destination, because phones are really good at doing those kinds of things. And like motorcycle TFTs are not a phone. And I feel like they'll never, at least not within the next like few years, they won't be at that same level of like fluidity that you get with a phone.
So it's like Apple motorcycle. You're saying motorcycle manufacturers should like leave the phone stuff to the phone people and then like work around that rather than trying to replace a phone and put it in a motorcycle.
I think it would just save everyone a lot of time and hassle to just be able to do that. Follow Honda's example and just put Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on the damn TFT and make the TFT maybe a little taller to have some of the like the basic info on the bottom there. That's it. That's my rant. Here's toolkits. Mine is infotainment on a motorcycle out of all things, because I feel
Gleb needs to be connected, guys.
It needs to be connected. So. You know, and that's just on the adventure bikes. Like, you know, and I feel like it's always the high end,
that's
like,
in our seats, our perspective of riding we do. Right?
But from like a touring or adventure motorcycle, like I feel like that's one of those things that'd be very useful on it. If you have a Ducati Panigale that you take out to the track, yes, as a TFT, it probably won't need Apple CarPlay.
Well, I don't see why a track bike would need, you know.
Or like, and that still leaves plenty of room for your modern classics that have analog arrows, or, you know, your basic dual sports that just have a basic LCD screen on it.
So, I think you're right. It just depends like what it's going to be doing from there. But one thing I will say, I hope that we see less to none of in the future is subscription-based services on bikes. I don't really want to start that right now because we're about to wrap up. But subscription for features on bikes, BMW, knock that off.
KTM,
knock that off.
Knock that off. And I feel like that's just such a, like, it's a very sore spot, sore subject, because I really don't like the idea of having a feature that's locked behind a paywall, but it's already there. Like, it's built into the engine, it's built into the software, but you have to pay someone to unlock it. And I feel like
it's like they're just being the trolls under the bridge to make you pay a toll to access this thing that's already there.
And I feel like if more of that starts happening, people are just going to find ways to like break that software and get those features, but that could potentially compromise the performance or the safety of the motorcycle, which is also bad. And I don't think that's a very good route to take, especially if it's like, even if it's for some outlandish feature like adaptive cruise control. Like if that Multistrada that I test rode today, like the adaptive cruise control is there, but you got to pay
$8 a month.
$8 a month for it. I'd be like, no, screw that.
It's like, well, I'm not buying it.
I'm not buying it. No, like, no, it's already an expensive hobby. Like insurance, maintenance, gear, and everything. But you're already adding like a monthly cost to that in addition to what you're probably paying for it. No, absolutely
it's
not.
the principle of the matter for me.
So I'm very excited to see what the future of motorcycling holds, and I hope it's a good one. And I hope more people start riding motorcycles, because they're way better than a car, and everyone should ride a motorcycle if they're able to. That's my opinion and fact.
I agree.
Our opinions are facts on this show.
This is our show. Shut up. Yeah.
This is our show. Gosh darn it. But I'm very excited to see what the future of motorcycling holds and what like crazy advanced features we see on motorcycles. And we didn't even touch on anything related to like electric motorcycles or anything like that. And I feel
but you know what's funny is I think that might be something we might talk about in the future.
I think so. So if you want to hear that, make sure you follow us on wherever you listen to a podcast. We're
just please stay
like on most platforms right now. Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart, Google, everywhere. So I think that's all I had to say for today.
That's all I had. I just want to like also throw out, like if we're ever dissing a bike that you have, it's all in good fun. Like I will happily joke about my bike, your bike.
100%. So my bike has so many things that I would talk shit on because but there are bikes, and we love them, and we love all bikes,
and you should love
even
your bike.
Harleys.
So you should love your bike no matter what you have.
Now I feel like now I mentioned that Harley comment, we have to go ride a Harley one day. Just to
I'm down, man. I want to try one.
So I'm down for trying any bike. So thank you guys so much for listening, and if you have any topic suggestions or comments, ideas, or anything you'd like to say, feel free to email us at tdtmotorcycles@gmail.com, and we'll leave that in the description below as well.
Very quickly, I just remembered, because we talked about doing this before we started recording. Well, we talked about this earlier this week. I'm just trying to find our own podcast, because we actually had some wonderful people comment for us. Casey Reese, thank you for your comment. Great advice from two great guys. Love listening. Thank you, Casey. Darren 505. Love it. I'm a fan of podcasts. This is a good one. Hope you can keep it up. Aside from never being on a Suzuki, then dissing my Versus. I love the TDM cast, FYI. The 12 V-Strum D, is it DI or DL? The Suzuki V.
That was DE.
DE. Oh, yeah. D, like the 1000 Suzuki V-Strum. Great ride and tall seat. Thank you. We love hearing about it.
Yeah.
So,
and keep them coming. We and send us an email. Like, we'd love to hear from you guys. And if you have topics, if we accidentally dissed your bike, feel free to call us out on it.
That's fine. You're our friend because we're making fun of you now.
Yeah.
So.
And if you have any cool features that you'd like to see on motorcycles, or maybe you get taken away, feel free to let us know as well.
Ooh, taken away would be good.
Yeah.
What could go.
Yeah. So, once again, thank you so much for listening, guys, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Yeah. Take care.